I'm Dylan Kendall, and I'm running for Los Angeles City Council and Council District 13, which includes the great neighborhood, or not so great neighborhood, of Hollywood. So I want to talk about my plan to revitalize Hollywood called Grow Hollywood. I want us first to know two things. Hollywood is a federally recognized opportunity zone. Because this district is in such economic distress, it was designated an opportunity zone about 10 years ago. That means we already have powerful tax and investment incentives just sitting on the table. Incentives designed to pull private capital into exactly this kind of corridor. We've never incorporated that into a real plan to revitalize Hollywood Boulevard. Next, my plan specifically designates Hollywood Boulevard as a creative economy innovation corridor. What does that mean? It means we now have a recognized designation for the boulevard that allows us to require development to work in step with the vision we have for the street. It allows us to secure public and private funding. For example, a similar model out of South Los Angeles, Destination Crenshaw, led out of Council District 9, has assembled roughly $100 million in public and private commitments for a 1.3-mile arts and culture corridor. There is no reason Hollywood, with the most powerful cultural brand in the world, shouldn't be doing the exact same thing. So we start with the Innovation Hub at the Pacific Theater, which anchors the boulevard and puts a lot more people working on the street. But if you look at this block right here, you can see the real problem. Right behind me is a new dance theater that's being built, supported by 100% creative artist housing, exactly the kind of activity we want here on Hollywood Boulevard. A serious creative use for people to rehearse, perform, work, but right next to it, you've got the same old story. A souvenir shop, a vape shop, and nothing about it is curated or intentional. This is not how a creative corridor should come together. This is a bright spot in a sea of low-value tenants with no vision about how any of it is supposed to fit together to inspire the world with a name that means so much to so many people. That's the issue. The street isn't aligned with a plan. We keep getting isolated projects instead of a real strategy for who gets to be on the boulevard and how it all adds up to be more than just a few random storefronts. That's where social infrastructure comes in. It's not enough to have one good theater on the block. You need the whole street to tell the same story. So walking between those doors doesn't feel like you're rushing through a gap. It feels like you're part of a creative experience. And the pieces are already here. We're not just connecting them. We have Emerson College and AMDA, among other creative institutions. We have students studying film, marketing, communication, and the arts right here. We're just not building any formal relationship between our creative institutions and the creative ecosystem that we're trying and we should be growing on the street. That's a missed opportunity we can fix on day one. Right behind me, we have the Hollywood Vinyl District, one of the most culturally distinct musical corridors in our city. And we've completely neglected it as an asset. We don't even have an overhead gateway sign recognizing the musical history found on the street. No walking tour that takes you from Amoeba, down Cahuenga, through the Hollywood Vinyl District, over to Sunset Sound and south, to all the new music studios opening up on Cahuenga right now. You put QR codes on every door. You tell the stories of Stevie Wonder rehearsing songs in the key of life at Grandmaster Recorders before the control room was even finished. David Bowie and Ringo Starr recording there in the 80s. The Red Hot Chili Peppers cutting their first tracks in that same building. This historic building that started out as a silent movie theater and became one of the most famous recording studios in the world. So beautifully reimagined as a restaurant and music venue, and then tragically closed because we couldn't build an ecosystem around it to keep it open. That building deserves better. And so does this neighborhood. And why aren't we doing music in the streets outside of Amoeba Records? They do it inside. We could easily do a partial street closure here on Argyle on Friday nights. Nothing that requires a massive setup, just a reoccurring activation that brings live music back to Hollywood Boulevard in a way that people can count on, in a way that all these new residents would love to experience, and that's the reason they moved to Hollywood in the first place. That kind of programming doesn't cost much. What it costs is someone at the council level actually caring enough to make the call. And none of this works if we don't fill the corridor with the right tenants. The 99-seat theaters, the acting classes, the dance studios, the writers' rooms, the programming for kids, the daytime coffee and groceries that make it possible to actually live your life here. These are the uses that create foot traffic at every hour of the day, not just on Saturday nights. These are the uses that make the street feel alive. Imagine if right here, instead of allowing this empty lot to contribute more blight to the boulevard, we built in market furniture so we could rotate artists through without them having to bring in their tables, rent equipment, haul a lot of stuff. And this way we focus, ceramics can come through, watercolors, rare books, and we anchor it all with the right type of furniture so you can find something beautiful in this market and then have a cup of coffee or a glass of wine and share that experience with friends. That activates an empty space, turning it into a creative contributor to the boulevard instead of what we're seeing here now. And we have the tools to make it happen, tools we've never actually used together. The Community Plan Implementation Overlay, Hollywood CPIO, gives us planning authority. And there's LA 28. The Olympics gives us something no prior revitalization effort has ever had, a hard deadline and a global audience of billions. Paris invested heavily in the Champs-Élysées before the 2024 Games. And if we ignore this moment, we aren't just missing this opportunity, we are actively broadcasting to the whole world that Hollywood is nothing more than a couple of souvenir shops and a vape store. That damage to our tourism industry doesn't go away when the torch goes out, it compounds. In London, when they designate creative enterprise corridors, they cluster theaters, studios, rehearsal spaces, and creative workspaces, so the street is alive with people who are actually working there. In Paris, Station F took an abandoned freight depot and turned it into the country's largest startup campus, and the neighborhood transformed because 1,000 people showed up every day and needed coffee, lunch, and services. They didn't just build offices, they built a reason for people to be in the neighborhood. And the street did the rest. There is nothing wrong with cosmetic improvements, but we need to be really honest about what cosmetic actually means. Hanging streetlights is cosmetic. Painting our light poles black is cosmetic. What I'm proposing is something different. We turn every one of those poles into a smart streetlight, tied into the fiber backbone we already have, and a wireless network that creates a cognitive digital twin of the district. That would let us see in real time where the boulevard is dark, where it's empty, and where people aren't going, and then actually fix those problems instead of just guessing what our district needs. There is a vision for Hollywood. Grow Hollywood starts from the value of the Hollywood brand and works to build a Hollywood Boulevard that Angelenos can be proud of again. A street that finally delivers on the promise of the name it carries, and not just with fresh paint, but with an intelligent infrastructure built for the creative economy we are now that brings our creative workers back to Hollywood Boulevard. Thank you.